Hello, everyone. Welcome to the American Mag channel. Of course, I'm Chris. My name is Chris, the American Mag, Newcastle United fan. And in this channel I haven't been uploading too much, but listen, I've been busy with NUFC Talk TV and Football Uncensored. But regardless, I want to get this channel going and I want to put some content. And what we're going to do in this channel in particular is really just taking a look at amazing stories out there in football, amazing stuff, maybe future highlight or previous highlights, some interesting documentaries regarding football. And this one right here is I'm going to react to the shocking story of the North Korean Ronaldo. Everybody knows that North Korea is a dictatorship. And if they had a previous Ronaldo, would they let him play? Would they let him be free? Is the question. Again, I have not watched this video at all. So hopefully it is what it is and it's not clickbait. And let's not waste any time and let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just go. Oh, you already got their dictator up front, so you know that's going to be interesting. And so this is shout out to D Mac, by the way, 188,000 subscriber. And D Mac, they created this video, of course. So we're going to link to their channel right there, so you can check them out and check their content. So shout out to them, subscribe to them, and of course, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to it, of course, if you want to. And let me know in the comment section what video football related would you like me to react next. It would be great. It would be great to get that. All right, let's get started.
North Korea. Football probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind. The country's economic policies, combined with a shitload of international sanctions, have resulted in a pretty dire living situation. But in amongst all the political chaos and total isolation from the Western world, a footballing sensation had emerged in Han Kwang-Song. The prodigious young attacker had caught the eye of some of world football's biggest clubs, being labelled as the North Korean Ronaldo, and was destined for an exciting career abroad after signing for Syria club Cagliari at 18. Fast forward 2 years into his football journey, Han was then poached by Italy's biggest club, Juventus, an emphatic rise at such a young age. But sadly, geopolitics would soon derail Han's career. Due to continual UN sanctions imposed against North Korea, Han's contract became increasingly problematic. As a result, Juventus were forced to immediately sell to Qatari club Al Duhail for 7 million euros.
That is messed up. Just because you were born in a country, your life is screwed, basically. And even if you're talented, you saw this in the Olympics too. There's a few North Korean athletes that were just sitting there. They took a selfie, and everybody's speculating that you're never going to see those North Korean athletes anymore because they decided to take a selfie, which apparently is illegal. And it's not even. It is illegal in North Korea, by the way, but it's not even. It's so limited. The cell phones and the cameras that people got are very scarce. They actually smuggle them in. The vast majority don't have no technology to actually see what's outside the world, and so it's sad. But yeah, I mean, this guy, I guess he had to be sold to a Qatari club, playing at Juventus, being in one of the greatest clubs of all time, and your career is done.
Now, the Middle East certainly wasn't what the Wonderkid had anticipated, but his future finally seemed secure, right? Well, no. Things then got really weird. After winning the Qatar Stars League in 2020, Han suddenly disappeared from professional football. For the next 3 years, there were no updates, nothing. This Wonderkid had seemingly vanished with no official confirmation on his whereabouts. A depressing reality. But 3 years later, out of the blue, the latest chapter in this bizarre tale unfolded. A World Cup qualifier, Syria versus North Korea. And guess who was on the pitch that day? None other than Han Kwang-Song. To put it mildly, this situation is completely bonkers, full of twists, turns, and political complications. This is the ill-fated story of the North Korean Wonderkid.
Oh man,
when it comes to essentially any...
We haven't even started yet. This is interesting. This is great. But he disappeared. Man, okay, let's get to it.
Information from within North Korea, access is severely limited, and Han's upbringing is no exception. There is no way of knowing the full extent of Han's story growing up, but we do know that his footballing roots began at the Pyongyang International Football School, the nation's prized footballing institution, with Han viewed as their star pupil. The young striker had both exceptional speed and technical ability. He was so good, in fact, that his own government literally paid for him to receive training overseas, developing at the Marset Academy in Barcelona, Barcelona, an environment where Han thrived in. He briefly returned home before departing for the Asian U16 Championships in 2014. North Korea surprisingly made it out of the group stages in that tournament, with Han scoring in every single match. They proceeded to knock out Iran, followed by Australia, setting up a mammoth final clash against who else but arch enemy South Korea. Now that right there is a rivalry. Han was the star in the final, getting on the score sheet in a historic 2-1 victory, taking home the trophy. Shortly after, Han moved to Italy to join the ISM Academy in a bizarre student visa deal brokered by the North Korean Football Association alongside Italian Senator Antonio Razzi. Razzi had previously met Kim Jong-un, somehow becoming friendly in the process, and wanted to help guide the nation's star footballing talent. Now, due to FIFA regulations regarding underage players, Han was ineligible to join a pro team, so he remained at the ISM Academy till he was 18. By then, he was in high demand. Liverpool and Manchester City desperately wanted to sign him. In fact, Liverpool personally sent their chief scout Barry Hunter to meet with Han and convince him to join. This encounter didn't go according to plan. Part of Hunter's pitch included offering Han the chance to meet club icon Steven Gerrard if he agreed to sign. But ironically, Han had absolutely no idea who Gerrard was. In fairness to the kid,
wow. But that just speaks. By the way, well, I guess I can say it. I am a former United States Army soldier. So, and I was actually deployed in South Korea. So I know what, limitations North Korean people have. And obviously, like, right, trying to put put him with Steven Gerrard, and he doesn't have a clue of who he is. But you can understand that because North Korea, I mean, he wouldn't. I'm sure they don't watch football there. They can't do it.
he grew up in North Korea. He'd probably never even heard of Liverpool prior to this meeting. Growing up in North Korea is the real life equivalent of living under a rock. Liverpool were ultimately unable to persuade Han, who instead opted to join Serie A club Cagliari, becoming the first North Korean and Asian to ever play for the club. Han would earn the minimum federal income required for a professional footballer in Italy's top flight, €1,500 a month, which would be deposited directly into Han's personal bank account. But this is where the trouble began. You see, the UN had placed heavy sanctions on North Korea to suppress the nation's nuclear project, which included an embargo on issuing visas for North Koreans, making poor old Han's life very challenging. It's estimated that the North Korean government takes roughly 80% of their overseas workers' wages. So it wasn't the most politically correct or legally sensible decision for a club to inadvertently fund the regime. A parliamentary investigation was carried out to closely monitor the payment of Han's wages. However, no action was taken on his case at the time, meaning Han could legally play for his new club. On the pitch, things were going great. On his first day at Cagliari, he scored a hat-trick in a friendly training match and progressed from the U19 squad to the first team over the course of his first season in Italian professional football. In April of 2017, Han made history by becoming the first North Korean to ever play in the Serie A, coming off the bench against Palermo in a 3-1 victory. A week later, another milestone was achieved when Han scored his first ever Serie A goal, courtesy of a bullet header against Joe Hart's Torino. Han's debut season in Italy was considered a success, making 5 appearances in total. The following campaign, Han was sent on loan to Perugia in the Serie B to gain regular first-team football, and the North Korean got off to a flyer, scoring a brilliant hat-trick on his league debut, and by December, he'd already racked up 10 goal contributions in just 19 games. This kid was a genuine baller in the making. His former Perugia was so impressive that his loan was cut short in January so that he could return back to Cagliari's first team. He'd make a further 7 appearances for Cagliari before rejoining Perugia on loan once again. After 2 successful loan spells at the club, he'd accumulated a total of 11 goals, 5 assists, and he was still a teenager. His development was fascinating. Everyone wanted to know more about this mysterious wonderkid. He'd caused a media stir within Italy, but gaining access to the striker became next to impossible. According to Perugia's club president Massimiliano Santapadre, he was literally banned from public TV appearances, with the North Korean regime threatening deportation if he were to stage any future interviews. The only place where Han could do his talking was on the pitch. Around the same time, North Korea continued to face global condemnation and sanctions as a result of their persistent testing of short-range ballistic missiles. Kim Jong-un was straight up disrespecting the North Korean Ronaldo with his antics. But despite the increased political tensions, Han had caught the eye of Italy's biggest club, Juventus, with the Bianconeri and manager Maurizio Sarri in particular a massive fan of the player. A deal was agreed with Han signing on an initial 2-year loan spell with an obligation to buy. In a written post on the ISM Academy website where Han first settled in Italy, he stated, "To dress such an important shirt as Juventus, my dream came true." Following this notable transfer, Italian media and government bodies addressed their concerns about this contract, questioning the legality.
Because the thing here is, this becomes more legality than actually football. More stuff outside of football, which is if you had issues with paying him 1,500 a month, and him actually funding, obviously, because by law they have to give their salary to the North Korean regime. Imagine paying him a lot of money playing for Juventus. That would be a horrific conflict of interest between, obviously for obvious reasons, against the dictatorship. And Italy obviously is not a country that supports that. So it would be a big conflict of interest on that one.
Legality of financing a North Korean citizen. But Juventus stated that any UN sanctions imposed wouldn't be applicable to Han. Exceptions had been made for specific cases that involved international sport, with Han supposedly falling into this category. So Han spent the next 6 months in Turin, making 17 appearances for Juve's U23 side, training frequently with the first team, and even making the bench on 2 occasions. In January of 2020, Juventus officially completed the purchase of Han Kwang-Song for 3.5 million euros. But this transfer involuntarily marked the end of Han's Juventus career. The UN immediately intervened and even threatened sanctions against the club. Juve got the message, and to the club's credit, they were swift in striking a deal elsewhere, securing a transfer to Qatari outfit Al Duhail for 7 million euros. How Juve managed to sell Han for twice as much money as they purchased him for in the space of 6 days, with the UN simultaneously threatening sanctions, that whole transfer deal was pure madness.
Well, it was madness, but at the time, you got to admit that in Saudi Arabia, at the time, they were just spending a lot of money on players. They were doing that. Same with Chinese. They were spending a lot of money on players, which they stopped doing, actually. Saudi Arabia seems to have slowed down on the just purchasing. This was before Cristiano Ronaldo. This was before, N'Golo Kante ended up in Saudi Arabia. This is before, I think this was trying to persuade them people to go there, and by getting somebody like this, I think it was definitely just the right time. I think if it would have happened today, it probably wouldn't have happened that way.
Regardless, Han's career had taken a massive turn, but surely in the Middle East, he would be able to play his football in peace and without the constant threat of UN intervention. Well, initially, it appeared that way. Han settled well into Qatar, scoring 4 goals in 10 matches that season, a solid contribution in Al Duhail's eventual title success. He can even be seen celebrating their league title victory on the final day of the season, but this was the last image ever taken of Han playing club football. The following preseason, Han didn't show up to training. He had been completely erased from Al Duhail, with no news emerging of any transfer or his association with the club. 6 months went by with no news until a report from the United Nations was released, confirming that Han's contract had been terminated with Al Duhail and that he was deported from Qatar. But he didn't return to his native country. No, there was no way he could have legally entered it because North Korea's borders were completely restricted due to COVID regulations. No one could get in or out of the country. According to CNN, he instead took a flight to Rome, temporarily staying with his management before being taken to the North Korean embassy. And that was the only verifiable sources on the matter. The rest from 2021 onwards was purely speculation. But he definitely wasn't playing professional football in Italy or elsewhere. His entire life had fundamentally been taken away from him. It's a genuine pity. But 2 years later, a shock update arrived. During the latest international break, against all odds, something interesting actually happened during that period. When after 3 years of vanishing from world football, Han Kwang-Song suddenly reappeared in a World Cup qualifier against Syria, donning the number 10 for his country. North Korea lost that game 1-0, but in their following qualifier against another powerhouse nation, Myanmar, Han bagged a goal and an assist in a 6-1 demolition. Even after being banished from the sport for over 3 years, he's still got it. There are rumors circulating that upon Han's recent return to North Korea, he signed for April 25 Sports Club. Yes, that is the club's official name. In fact, they're actually the reigning champions of the North Korean Premier Football League. On one hand, it's a relief that he's alive and actually playing football in 2023, although I can't help but feel sorry for him. Sorry that geopolitics took away his dream move to Juventus. Sorry that institutions that have no real connection to football dictated his livelihood. I mean, let's be real here. There are far greater problems that the UN should prioritize ahead of this. But that's just my 2 cents on the situation. Anyways, what are your thoughts on the North Korean Ronaldo? It's one of football's weirdest stories in recent memory. So let me know in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching.
Shout out to D-Mac, of course. Subscribe to his channel. We're gonna leave the link in the chat. But it's not in the chat, but in the description. This is an interesting topic, and like he said, I agree 100%. It's difficult when you have geopolitical stuff dictating your life, but he's just one person, and obviously we're talking about football, meaning we have an affinity with footballers. We want them to do well, obviously, and if you see a good performing footballer, you want him to perform, you want him to do good. But this is just one person, one human being. You're talking about millions and millions and millions of North Korean folks that are, in this horrible predicament that is just to live and be born in a dictatorship in a country that do not care about your human basic human rights and don't care about the country to succeed. They simply do not. Taking 80% of your income, providing you with nothing, basically. People steal, people, and it's just such a regimented country to levels that you will never understand. And I'm not saying, obviously, you do get it, it's just an expression, but to levels that are unbelievable at most. So it's just a horrible situation. But this guy is just one of those victims that fell into that. But hopefully he's doing well, and hopefully we see him at some point playing football. But according to this report, as of December 8th, 2023, it's already been 7 months later, damn near. We don't know if he's playing or not, and I have not heard anything really about him anywhere. But it's just an unfortunate situation. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Thank you so much for your support. I'm Chris the American Mag, and I'll see you on the next one.